Hey, how y'all doing out there? Back at you again with another video. Today I'd like to do a video on our older flagship phones, the best budget phones. So our older flagship phones, the best budget phones. Now, just in my opinion, I would say yes, because you're getting a flagship phone, even though it might be a year old or even 2 years old, it's still a flagship device and you're getting all the bells and whistles as opposed to a mid-range or a budget phone where you're gonna have to compromise on some things. Now I know everybody don't care about all the bells and whistles and all that stuff, but there are people out there that actually do, and that matters to them. They want to get as much value for their money as possible. So in my opinion, I think investing in older flagships can satisfy the person that wants the most value for their money. But I'm gonna get in, pretty detailed about this, and I'm gonna run down the specs on all 5 of these phones, and you make your decision from there. All right. But first, let me tell you what I got on the table. You got the Note FE, otherwise known as the Note 7. This was the fan edition that came out after the Note 7 debacle, unfortunately, with the battery. So this is the Note fan edition, which was basically the Note 7, just with a smaller battery. Here you got the Google Pixel 2 XL. You got the LG V30, the Galaxy S9 Plus, and the Galaxy Note 9. So all 5 of these phones are all flagships, and they're all older flagships. Now some are older than others. Now Note 7 is about 3 years old. This is about 2 years old. This is 2 years old. And these are a year old, these two here. All right. But let me break down the specs of all these devices. Then you can decide, which one you'd rather go with if you're out there searching for either a new smartphone or maybe just a backup phone. All right. Some people need backup phones just in case their main phone gets broken or something happens to it. They have another phone to fall back on. All right, we're going to start off with the Samsung Galaxy Note FE, otherwise known as the Note 7. With this device here, you're going to get Gorilla Glass 5. You're also going to get a 5.7-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display. You're going to get expandable memory up to 256 gigs. You're getting IP68 water and dust resistant. You're getting HDR10. You're getting an always-on display, Android 9 Pie. Unfortunately, you won't be getting any more OS updates. You're getting One UI 1.0. You're getting Samsung Pay. You're getting 64 gigs of internal storage. You're getting 4 gigs of RAM. You're getting a 3.5mm headphone jack. You're getting NFC, fingerprint sensor on the front. You're getting an iris sensor. You're getting face unlock, a 3,200 milliamp battery, wireless charging, 15-watt fast charging, heart rate monitor, edge panels, edge lighting, headphones in the box. You're also getting on this particular device the Exynos 8890 octa-core processor. And with the cameras, you're getting one single camera on the rear, which is a 12 megapixel camera wide with optical image stabilization. It shoots in 4K at 30 frames per second. Also shoots at 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per second. And also at 720p at 240 frames per second. With the selfie camera, it also comes in wide, and it shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 frames per second, and 720p at 30 frames per second. And also, last but definitely not least, you have the S Pen and all the features that come with the S Pen. So that's the Note FE, otherwise known as the Note 7. This is all you're going to get with this device, and as you can tell, is loaded. Okay, now it's older software, the Android 9, but the phone is still decent for those that still love this particular design of this particular phone. So I'm going to turn this phone over, and I'm going to turn on the screen every time I finish with one. All right, so you can see that display. Has a great display. Now my only issue with this phone, it's a little laggy. It's a little slow. I don't know if I may need to reset it or not. I don't know. But it's a little laggy. But I still like this phone because it's, the form factor is excellent. The battery's still decent. The display is absolutely beautiful. And you do have, at least the One UI 1.0 as opposed to TouchWiz. So it's not bad, and you got the one downfiring speaker. All right, so next, let's get to the Google Pixel 2 XL. This is also another flagship. Let me give you the specs on this one. So here you have a 6-inch Quad HD PO LED display. You got a Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor. You're getting 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, dual stereo front-facing speakers, always-on display, Gorilla Glass 5, a fingerprint sensor on the rear, a 3,520 milliamp battery, IP67 water and dust resistance, NFC, Android 10 upgradable to Android 12, the Squeezeology for the Google Assistant, call screening, voice transcribe, and with the cameras, you have a 12.2 megapixel camera on the rear, which is one, and you have an 8 megapixel selfie camera on the front. Now, with the rear camera, it shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second, and it shoots at 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per second. Okay, I'm sorry, the front camera shoots 30 frames per second, 1080p, and the rear camera shoot 4K at 30 and 60 frames per second on the rear. All right, I think I got that right. All right, if I got that wrong, I apologize. And I did get that wrong. I'm sorry. Shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 and 60 on the rear camera. Now with the selfie camera, it shoots at 1080p at 30 frames per second. All right. Now the only thing for me that's missing on this particular device, and this is just what's missing to me as far as I'm concerned, no face unlock, no wireless charging, no headphone jack or headphones, no expandable memory, no ultra wide lens on the rear camera, no 4K recording on the front camera, and no 4K at 60 frames per second on the rear camera. So that's the things that are missing from the Pixel 2 XL. However, it is still a great phone. I still like it. Has a great display, has great battery life, and it has great cameras. So you definitely can't go wrong with this device. And also, you're gonna get security as well as OS updates for the next 2 years. So I love that device. That's why I have it. All right, next phone, the LG V30. Here you have a 6-inch PO LED display. You got Gorilla Glass 5, IP68 water and dust resistance, a 3,300 milliamp battery, 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, expandable memory up to 1 terabyte, wireless charging, Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor, always-on display, face unlock, Bluetooth 5.0, NFC, fingerprint sensor on the rear, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, a 32-bit hi-fi quad DAC, which is absolutely amazing. I'm telling you, the quality that comes out of that jack is unbelievable. You got the floating bar. You're getting Android 9. Unfortunately, no more OS updates. You're getting 18-watt fast charging. You're getting HDR10, screen recording. And with the cameras, you're getting 2 cameras on the rear. One is a 16 megapixel standard lens with optical image stabilization, 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. Right, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. On the front camera, you got a 5 megapixel wide that shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per second, and also 720p at 120 frames per second. With the selfie camera, it shoots at 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the LG V30 takes phenomenal video and photos. Phenomenal. Just beautiful. Okay? So does the Pixel. Great, great photos. I mean, the quality is surreal. The Note, I mean, it still takes good pictures. Don't get me wrong. It still takes nice photos, but it's definitely not on the level of the Pixel and the LG V30. It's just not. Okay, turn this bad boy over. Alrighty. All right, 2 more to go. All right, so the next phone we're going to talk about, Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. All right, so here you have a 6.2-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display. You're getting Gorilla Glass 5. You're getting HDR10, always on display, Android 10, the One UI 2.0, Snapdragon 845 with the octa-core processor. You're getting fast wireless charging, 6 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, expandable memory up to 512 gigs, dual stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos, and for some of you that matters. I know it matters for me. 3.5mm headphone jack, Bluetooth 5.0, NFC, Samsung Pay, screen recording, headphones in the box that are tuned by AKG, FM radio, iris sensor, face unlock, heart rate monitor, Samsung DeX, a 3,500 milliamp battery, 15 watt fast charging, edge lighting, edge panels, secure folder, and the S Pen and the S Pen with Bluetooth capabilities. With the cameras, you got 2 on the rear. You got one that's a 12 megapixel wide dual pixel with optical image stabilization. You have a 12 megapixel telephoto with 2 times optical zoom. Okay. Now the rear cameras shoot at 4K at 30 and 60 frames per second and 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per second and at 240 frames per second. It also shoots in 720p at 960 frames per second. With the front camera, you got an 8 megapixel wide selfie camera that shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second and at 1080p at 30 frames per second and also at 720p at 30 frames per second. Okay? So now you have here the S9 Plus. This is an excellent device as well. You get great battery life. You're getting a great display. All these displays, keep in mind, are Quad HD displays. Every last one of them, all Quad HD displays, and they're all beautiful. All right, now we have the big boy, the last one, the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Okay. All right, now there's some similarities between the Note 9 and the S9. Okay, not in every way, but in a lot of ways when it comes to the software. So let's see what the Note 9 has to offer. You got a 6.4-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display. You're getting HDR10, always on display, expandable memory up to 512 gigs, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage, dual stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos, fast wireless charging, 4,000 milliamp battery, facial unlock, iris sensor, heart rate monitor, LED notification light, which also the S9 Plus has too. I forgot to mention that. Bluetooth 5.0, fingerprint sensor is on the rear and it's super fast. IP68 water and dust resistant. Snapdragon 845 with the octa-core processor. 18 watt fast charging. Samsung Pay, Samsung DeX, Gorilla Glass 5, 3.5mm headphone jack, AKG tuned headphones in the box, edge lighting, edge panels, secure folder, NFC, screen recording, a 32-bit audio DAC, and with the cameras, you got 2 cameras on the rear. You got a 12 megapixel wide with optical image stabilization and a 12 megapixel telephoto with optical image stabilization and 2 times optical zoom. Shoots at 4K at 30 and 60 frames per second, 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per second, and also at 240 frames per second. It also shoots at 720p at 960 frames per second, which is super slow motion. With the selfie camera, on the front you have an 8 megapixel wide. It shoots at 4K at 30 frames per second, and it shoots at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and also at 720p at 30 frames per second. So that's all of these devices. They all offer a great deal of value for your money. Now, if I had to pick just one out of all of these devices, I wonder if y'all know which one I'm going to go with. I think for those that really know me, you already know which one I would choose. And that would be the Galaxy Note 9. And the reason for that, I need that S Pen. Okay? And it's the largest phone out of all of these phones with that boxy shape. And it also has the bigger battery. Now, having a bigger battery doesn't mean it has the best battery life. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the phone that has the best battery life on this table out of all of these devices, that would be the LG V30. The battery life on this phone is ridiculous. It's just insane. And the reason why I say that, because I use 100% brightness all the time, always on display, max brightness. I mean, I'm using pretty much everything at max, and that battery just lasts, and the standby time is just surreal. It just is. So the next with battery life, I would have to say would be the Pixel. Great battery life on that. Then I would go with the Note, the S9, and then the last one will be the Note FE. So you can't go wrong with any of the devices. Now, like I said, with the Note FE, I think I'll probably have to reset it because it's a little laggy. Maybe to be a little more smooth. I don't know. But it's a little laggy. But all of these devices have quad HD displays. You know, all of them got really good cameras on them. Okay, you're not going to go wrong with that. They're all solidly built as far as build quality. Excellent build quality on all of them. You're talking Gorilla Glass 5 on every single one of these. Okay, you're getting IP68 and dust and water resistance on all of them. The only one you're getting a lesser rating is the Pixel at IP67. But other than that, IP68 on all of them. You're getting wireless charging on all of them except the Pixel. Okay, you're getting expandable memory on all of them except the Pixel. You're getting face unlock on all of them except the Pixel. Okay, so it's some things that are missing from the Pixel, but it's still a flagship phone, especially for those that are stock Android purists. You just love the feeling and the experience with stock Android, then that's the one you want to go with. But for those of you that love a phone with a lot of features, then you want these other devices. You know, you want the Note FE, you want the Note 9, the S9, the LG V30. Now, I do have some other devices, but they're not flagship devices. Like, I would have loved to put the Pixel 3a XL, but that's not a flagship device. That's a mid-tier device, so I couldn't put that on it. But that phone runs like a flagship device, but it's just not. Okay, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's missing some things, you know, but these are the phones that I use the most. I mean, I don't use the FE as much, but I still like it. And, you know, I always wanted the Note 7 before that debacle, unfortunately. So that's why I got that, more for just the history of that device. And I really like, you know, the style of that device. It has the biggest bezels out of all of them, you know, out of all these phones up here. But still, I still like this device. So that was my quick comparison between, you know, all of these older flagship phones. Now, to me, you're going to get way more value out of these devices than you would the newer devices, because with a lot of the newer devices, you're not getting wireless charging. You know, there's a lot of things you're not getting. You know, now Samsung, they give you a lot, but they leave out wireless charging and certain things. They'll probably give you the most for a budget phone, but all the rest of them, they take away too many things, you know, for me. So, in my opinion, I would invest more so in an older flagship than the newer ones, because I don't have to give up anything. I don't have to compromise on anything. So I would go with the older flagships. But that's just me. So once again, thank you very much for taking the time to view this content. Thank you very much to all my subscribers out there. And you guys stay safe. All right. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.